either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Weird MicroViews. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And with summer coming to an end, well, we are diving a little bit into summertime nostalgia. We figured it'd be a good idea to explore a shitty summer-themed horror flick and the last movie in the Piranhas franchise, 2012 Piranhas 3 Double D.
Yeah, this is, as someone who loves the Piranha franchise, the worst Piranha movie.
Before this, I had only known about Piranha 3D. I did not know 3 Double D was a sequel.
I do believe that was intentional by everybody who worked on this film.
I knew of Piranha 3D because my brother saw it when he was in high school.
Sure. Oh, and there was a lot of advertising to go with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I didn't watch the original until we decided, hey, we're going to do this one.
Sure. This one, okay, so each Piranha movie, did you ever get around to the second one, by the way?
No, I haven't gotten around to Piranha 2, The Spawning.
Don't worry. You're not missing much. But I would argue that, unlike a lot of other, especially aquatic monster movies, Piranha does, in a very bad sense, follow an actual somewhat story arc for the piranhas.
Yeah, because Piranha's 3 Double D follows the events of 2010's Piranha 3D, but this time a water park finds itself the latest victims of the prehistoric piranhas.
Yes. The other thing that Piranha's the franchise, which for some of us fans, enjoyed. Others, I understand it's not your thing. But Piranhas is a fantastic franchise of of showing how the thing that sold the first one got amplified in the second one. And then whatever sold in the second one got amplified in the third one.
Are you talking about the larger and larger big fake tits getting amplified?
The big fake tits and the piranhas. So, the first one the piranhas sold, so they added more piranhas in the second one. The boobs in the second one sold, so they added more boobs in the third one. The boobs in the third one sold, so this one is only boobs.
Yeah. Before we get into the tits and ass of this movie.
So much, honestly.
It's written by Patrick Melton, Marcus Dustin, and Joel Sosin.
Yeah.
Directed by John Gulager. It stars Danielle Handbaker, Ving Rhames, and David Coker, with a large cast of cameos
huge cast.
Side characters that are well known. I mean, David Coker is
of course
well known, but
no, like the side people are just all over the place on this one. Honorable note goes to Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger, who worked on the third one, Piranha 3D. They were the ones who originally wanted to do Piranha 3 Double D. They wanted to do something honestly much bigger and much, honestly, probably full frontal nudity toned down a bit. They got told no because the studio wanted a lower budget. And while neither of them directly worked on this one, they were both given credit because a few of the scenes from Piranha 3D that got cut ended up in this movie.
Okay, interesting.
There's not a lot of other stuff to talk about for this one.
No, well, that's kind of the thing with this one is I sat down because don't get me wrong, I didn't think the first Piranha was great, but I enjoyed it enough because it's, cheesy summertime horror flick.
Everyone else who watched that movie had the same feeling, I think.
Every aquatic horror film is basically the same at this point.
Yes, they are.
It's just this one, like we said, it takes everything to the top. Like, here's the thing, is I have watched a movie that is full frontal nudity the entire time.
Yeah.
And it somehow
was less nude than this one?
No. That one was full nude.
Yeah.
But
in your gut, did it feel more naked? This one felt the most naked out of everything I've watched in a long time.
It made full frontal nudity boring in a movie for that one.
Yeah.
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 Creatures of Mutant Cove, or Mutants of Nature Cove, if anyone is looking for that one. It is dog shit. And even this one, like, that was the thing, is like, this one I can kind of understand, like, some of the excuses of, like, oh, this is the adults only portion of the water park. That's the only reason we have tits and ass in this movie, is because the pervy fucking water shot or water park owner.
So I do not expect you to have, but I have seen this movie now several times.
Jesus.
Once because I watched it myself long time ago. Once because a friend and I watched it because I had watched it long ago. And then I watched it a handful of times to make sure I remembered my gripes correctly. Okay. I have lots of gripes about this movie. The water park itself is one of my largest gripes. So I had to look it up. The water park is filmed at a real-life water park called Jungle Rapids, which is why part of the water park looks like a real water park, with slides and, like, things and snack bars and a, like, wave machine. And then the adults-only section is not filmed at Jungle Rapids Water Park. It is filmed in a motel pool, because that's where they could get the permission to film.
Oh, that explains some of the shots of, here's the adult side, and then
it's like a completely different place.
Well, no, then it cuts to the other side of the fence.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so this is me being too picky, because honestly, like, some of the times we watched this, we might have been too close to the screen. But
staring at them titties.
We won't say anything. However, you will notice that this water park would not have been remained open for a week without the piranhas, because the adults-only side, which honestly, this whole park would have been adults-only, let's be brutally honest with ourselves, ain't no child allowed in this. However, the quote-unquote adults-only pool has a fence that is 3 slats tall. It is maybe 3 feet tall. Those slats maybe take up 6 vertical inches of visual space, and there's a highway on the other side. Just cars running past the naked ladies. This water park could not have operated even without the piranhas in it.
It would have had to be indoor.
It would have had to be indoor, actually, yeah. Well, no, not necessarily. It needs to be fully enclosed so that the public cannot be affronted by your titties.
Well, I mean, in the U.S.
In the U.S., and that is where this movie is located. It is in the Northeast.
Is it?
It is. It's set in the Northeast.
Guess I glossed over that.
No, actually, correction. It is located in Arizona. My bad. The park the park they filmed in was in the Northeast.
Really? Arizona? It's way too fucking... Oh, Lake Victoria. That's right.
I'm
just sitting there, I'm thinking, Arizona...
The desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is, like, this movie, I get where it was trying to go.
I do, too.
I think the other issue with it is, like, I get when movies try and do homages to other genres or, like, other horror films.
Yeah.
Or other movies that the directors just loves.
Mm-hmm.
But, like... Including Nightmare on Elm Street with the bathtub scene and the piranha attacking her was really dumb. And a dream sequence, too.
Yeah, very dumb.
Well, and on top of that, like, the whole glass breaking in the tank, it made Jaws 3D look good. It did, which is saying something, because this one was also filmed in a nicer setup than Jaws 3D, which I don't understand, because they did bitch about the budget several times on the, like, tiny bit of research I did on this. This was filmed in 3D rig, not in 3D post. Oh. So
they filmed this fully expecting you to watch them titties bounce in 3D. Which I understand. I get the appeal. I get the money-making side. However, I think this movie suffers from too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Yeah, well, and I wouldn't even say too much of a good thing. Too much of a bad thing makes it even worse. That's true. Okay, so... we are in the, I would argue, minority of people who watch Piranha 3DD, who watch movies that have a lot of nudity in them, and it's not necessarily because it's a sexy movie. It's usually some form of horror commentary on the nude, like, industry of film. It depends. I mean, I'm pretty sure Creatures of, or Mutants of Nature Co. That was just nude for fun. Yeah. They just didn't have the budget for clothing. I don't think they wanted clothing. That too. But, like, this movie has moments where it is in a very bad B horror movie talking about, like, the over-sexification of stuff and how, like, that could, like, play into, like, why this is being opened in the first place, right? Yeah. This movie addresses very blatantly at the first couple minutes of the movie, like, hey, why are we building a water park here? Weren't there just man-eating piranhas right next door? And he's like, yeah, but sex. But they look at the titties. Remember, it's a horror film. They got rid of them in the last one. They didn't see the post. I'm assuming there's a post-credit shot of the piranhas escaping somehow. There is. Because that's how they get into this, is some underwater cave bullshit that connects into the public sewerway. Or no, it doesn't even connect into the public sewerways. The way they get into the fucking park is he's a cheapskate and he digs his own well. Yes, he does. Which... we have other concerns because, like, clearly no one researched wells at all before, like, saying that, but that's fine, don't worry about it. But, like, also, like, it distracts from the previous 2 movies, right? Having as much nudity as possible does distract from, like, oh yeah, well, I guess having, like, an enclosed pool, like, you can rationalize it because it's sexy. This one, though, takes it too far, I would argue.
Here's what it is. They have almost no plot with this movie to begin with.
There is not.
Because the whole thing is supposed to be like some drama between a couple of the college or post-college kids.
They are teenagers, according to the movie.
Oh, God. Well, I mean,
they don't look like teenagers.
They could be college kids still. 18, 19 is still a teenager.
No, that's exactly what they're playing off as the 18 mark. But according to the movie, they're teenagers. Yeah,
and just them, like, the main girl having to deal with her stepfather owning half the park and reopening it. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't give me any reason to care for them.
No.
But it is like those shitty fucking animes that have to fill it with time for the plot, and it's always just some bouncy fake titties. Like,
and don't get me wrong. We are both appreciations of the fake titties. Mm-hmm. However, this movie, I think, does it too much too often.
Yes.
So that you no longer care that there are titties.
Yeah, give us some of the natural floppy hanging ones. Don't give us all the hard bubble tits.
There is only bubble tits in this movie. If you were looking for natural bodies, this is not the movie for you. Even the men have very questionably unnatural bodies.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is, like, I think I've come across, like, I'm coming to my own where I appreciate seeing male nudity in movie because of how much nudity we have to put women through in movies.
Yes.
But, like, we get none of that at all. Like,
it's just the amount of male nudity is honestly disappointing in this film.
Yeah, no, even like shirtless men. The sexiest one we have is fucking David Hasselhoff.
It is hard to beat the Hoff. That's a joke. I do not find Hasselhoff in this movie sexy at all. And
that's showing that's showing up the rest of the cast, exactly.
We do get one almost full frontal male nudity scene. However, they tastefully blur out his piranha-bitten penis for, like, the majority of it. Mm-hmm. So, like, does it even count if I've already watched 8 other women be full frontal nudity at this point? No, it feels cheap, honestly. Like,
yeah, it's not like the opening scene of Teeth when the dude gets his dick cut off and you see it bobbing down the river a little bit down the line.
Yes, like, I don't even want to say it in like, oh, it just doesn't feel fair. It just feels boring. Because at this point, I have only watched, quote-unquote, 18 to... Some of these ladies are not in the 20s anymore. Let's be very frank. They might be playing a 20-year-old, but I can tell. I can see the Botox. It's okay, though. But, like, the amount of, like...
The sexy ones don't have to be 18.
That's true. But yeah, like, it's not even that there's a lack of male attractive characters in this. There's a supposedly teenage-ish aged sheriff. Kyle. Kyle is a conventionally attractive guy who I don't think is shirtless hardly ever in this movie. No. He should be shirtless the whole movie!
But that's the thing, is they make all the guys such tools in this movie.
They do, with the exception of the one obvious not tool, who is still a little bit of a tool, but, like, you know, everyone in this movie's a douchebag, so, like, nobody's not sort of thing. Fine.
Yeah. I mean, they brought Ving Rhames back, I think?
They did at the very end.
Yeah, and like that's kind of the part that I wish I know. And that's the annoying thing with this one is everything is so far set away from the rest of it that bringing him back and giving him Vietnam style flashbacks just doesn't like work. Like I wish there was more of a tie to like the last one. If he was more of a character of like
he shows up in literally the last 5 minutes.
No, he's in the last like 30, and that's the shitty thing is like
he should have been in the whole thing.
No, exactly.
Yeah, no. Okay, so here's my number one complaint of this movie, right? This movie is directly tied to Piranhas the game.
There's a game?
There's a game.
Fuck.
After Piranhas, I think it was honestly Piranhas 2 was like the first game, but Piranhas 3D really kicked off. It was mostly a mobile game, but it did eventually get a console release, I think. And the whole point of it is that you play as the piranha, and you, like, go around and eat people. You go around and you eat people, and, like, then this movie came out, they said, we're gonna re-release that game for more things, right? Not just for phone, but it's also gonna come out on other stuff.
It looks like it only was released on...
That specific one. That specific one, the franchise of the games has continued. It is actually a fun game.
Jesus.
But like, it's a level up, like, evolution, quote, quote, sort of game. But it's very over the top. There's a lot of explosions. You play as the piranhas. That game is fun. This movie is boring. And it shouldn't be boring. There should be more actual action.
No, exactly. Or like action in both forms of the way. That's the thing is no one that, and I get like we've broken away from the horror trope of if you have sex you die.
Yeah, well, I mean they do play on that a little bit.
But at least give us some sex. Well, they don't have sex. That's the thing. They don't.
Everyone dies either during or right before.
Yeah, they're not even during or right, like they don't even get to like, it's just like, oh, I took off your pants. I'm going to barf a piranha onto your dick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is exuberantly boring. The only, like, true fun happens at the end when all of the big names show up on film. Like, once David Hasselhoff makes his appearance on this film...
Excuse me, Gary Busey is in the very beginning of the movie.
Okay, he is. And that's where this is kind of weird, is if this had been just a B-level movie with actors and actresses who I just kind of vaguely knew, or even didn't know anyone at all, I would have had, honestly, more fun. If this was, like, Sharktopus level version, this could have been okay, because then I could have enjoyed having bad visuals, or bad storytelling, or bad acting. However, for some reason, Doc Martin is just hanging out in this film halfway through, distracting me from everyone else's shitty acting.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy him, I enjoy his acting, I think his character in this movie is fine. However, all of the action happens in the last 30 minutes of this movie once the rest of the big name cast shows up.
Well, and even then, like, it doesn't really add anything to it at all. Like,
no,
don't get me wrong, I do enjoy that David Hasselhoff has kind of taken the joke that he's not going to be in a good movie.
No, and, like, he's a good sport about this movie. Everyone who played from a big role standpoint was a good sport about being in this movie. They did not think they were making money. They were in it for the joke.
No, exactly. But even then, like, the last 30 minutes of it just goes on a little bit too long without anything really interesting other than the main stepdad getting his head cut off. And
which is honestly a boring scene, because, like, I missed the part about, like, because he's not driving fast enough to actually decapitate himself.
It's a horror film, Chris.
I know, but, like, this is a horror film that, like, the first three, very loosely, science-y. And now, like, don't get me wrong, they kind of play with it with the whole chlorine chemical blowing up stuff. He's going maybe 2 miles an hour. That line is not sharp enough. Like, if it had ricocheted and done, like, a whole, you know, Goldberg machine where he, like, ends up dead, that would have been
Final
hilarious.
Destination, because you've already referenced 2 movies with the breaking of the glass for Jaws 3D and Nightmare on Elm Street, and probably a handful of other movies I didn't catch on.
I want to say the van rolling into the lake is also somewhere. I just can't remember which movie.
I think it's one of the Friday the 13th movies.
I feel like that's right, but there's so much I can't remember.
Yeah.
But, like,
well,
the amount of fighting the piranhas is minimal. I need more shotgun to piranha action.
Well, and on top of that, get back to the head decapitation. It's just a way to get a motorboat into the movie.
It is, which is disappointing because, like, honestly, it's not like we were missing out on motorboat potential.
No.
He could have just honestly picked anybody and be like, $5 for you if you let me motorboat you, and that could have just been part of the movie.
Yes.
And it would have been believable.
And for those confused, we're talking about his head being rubbed between tits.
Yes.
Not the actual motor vehicle.
No, because there's surprisingly lack of motor vehicles in this movie.
Yeah, well...
For a water-based film?
Well, I mean, there's a lack because almost everything takes place in the pool.
In the pool, which I do like. I do think it plays off of people's irrational fears of things getting them in the pool. That's fine. I don't care that this is set in a pool. I actually kind of enjoy it.
Yeah. The best part of the chaos of the end is just watching how everyone in the background is freaking out. And horribly just, like, kind of standing there in the background, not doing shit, like, oh no, and Hasselhoff is just like,
not giving a shit. Yeah.
Or the redhead kid that just keeps poking the piranhas and just...
Yeah, who eventually dies.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, like, that one felt funny. That one felt good.
Well, not even, just because, like, this was, like, the 5th time he had done it. Like, it wasn't like the rule of threes where it's like, okay, this one time. No, it was falls in, like, 4 or 5 times into the water.
Yes, he does. No, the last 30 to 45 minutes of this movie are honestly the best part of this movie, because there's actually chaos happening. There's enough bad happening, like there's clearly bites happening on people who have no piranhas next to them, or people who, like, the piranhas are swimming up, they've already got bite marks because special effects makeup is already there, and they haven't like CGI'd anything
well, it's
on.
not even like chunks missing, it's just like the cheesy, he got bit.
Yeah.
Like when a girl gives you a hickey on the neck for the first time, it's like the bite mark.
Yes, or like some very like loose, obviously someone poured a bucket of fake like red dye into the pool, but the piranhas are on the other end of the pool. Like, that sort of stuff is funny, and like honestly, I think what the original like production staff was kind of going for, and we lost the track through all of this like Friday the 13th Nightmare on Elm Street bullshit with like the whole over sexification, we should lean into that. No, this is piranhas. We don't there is no morality here.
Well, I think part of it is that it feels, and I'm pulling from Bryan Cranston on his descript when he was talking about acting for Malcolm in the Middle, is the comedy I don't think works because everyone seems in on the joke, and it's not just like, it's not like it's a parody of bad aquatic fish movies. It's just a bad movie, and everyone's like, yeah, we know it's dumb. We know it's not a good movie, instead of trying to enjoy
the badness.
Exactly.
Yes. Which is very disappointing, because the last little bit has a lot of potential for a fun, bad film. It's honestly what I was hoping the whole movie would be. And I'm not even saying that because, like, the excessive nudity, because, like, let's be honest, it's excessive. We lose the interest and plot of it very quickly, because it's just all the time. There's not even really necessarily, like, any story around any of it.
No.
It's just, like, a slight nudist colony happening here.
No, and not even that. It's just like a handful of women, and that's it.
It is truly, and like, unfortunately, they are trying to play it off as like a whole pool full of people, but they've only got like the same 6 to 10 people, but they just keep like having them walk past the camera a bunch of times.
Which, I mean, would work if they played into it a little bit more. Like if a girl walks by and then she comes back again.
Come back again.
I think I've seen her before.
Yes, if they had like been a little bit more available to the fact that this was not just like a bad film, but like enjoy making this a bad film, because the bad piranhas are bad, the bad acting is bad, but at no point do we get to like fully enjoy it, because I'm constantly being bombarded by all this other side plot. Oh
yeah, well, and that's the thing. It's like the side plot is supposed to be the main plot,
yes,
and it doesn't matter.
I don't care.
No, exactly.
Nobody cares.
Exactly. Give me at least a little reason to care about why Danielle even really wants to be, or I don't even know her name. That's the actress's name. What's her name?
Maddie.
Yeah, why Maddie is mad at her stepdad.
Yes. And like,
or like, give more reason between their drama. They're like, they only have like a couple interactions, and it's always when they're at the water park together.
And honestly, it is confusing why Maddie is ever even at the water park.
Because she owns half of it. Or 49%, something like that.
But it, like, at no point is she, like, running a theme park. Like, it could be very easily to, like, throw in the fact that she's doing all the bookkeeping for this place.
Well, that's the thing. She straight up says early on she doesn't even want this opening.
Which makes no sense.
Sell it!
Sell it! Get rid of it!
Real estate development.
Hasselhoff will buy it.
Yeah. I will say, though, there is one good thing to come out of this movie.
Other than all of the boob shots?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Hasselhoff Fish Hunter.
Yes.
I would watch that dog shit.
I would too. Okay, that is the other part that's upsetting. Don't be wrong. I do think everyone who was in this movie did their best, which honestly might be bad directing. I think everyone should have tried less. But because we have such a weird mix between very talented actors and just honestly mediocre actors, once they get together, it's very blatantly obvious who is actually good at acting in shitty horror films. And it's not our main cast.
Yeah, and you know what's sad? The director, Gulager, directed one of my, not my favorite, but a comedy I really, really like.
Yep.
Feast.
Yes.
Also, actually, the first 3 Feast movies, because they all get progressively worse and worse.
Yes, they do. It's not that the people who worked on this didn't know how to make a good, fun, bad movie. It's that I think there was too much push to do something that was very good, which was the original idea, but then got told, no, make it dumber, make it dumber, make it dumber. And unfortunately, I don't think it ever, like, hit the level of fun because there was too much effort put in at certain parts.
Yeah, and I mean, can we even blame the director for it at that point?
I cannot.
Well, that's the writing at usually, because...
I honestly don't blame anyone. I think this is just one of those, like, instances where there's too much happening, where, honestly, some of the writing's not bad. Like, there's some horror elements that we don't normally see in American mainstream horror, which are fun, and I think could have been a good shock factor for a lot of people. But it gets overplayed with, honestly, happening, too often, or, acting that then gets overshadowed by much funnier acting, or CGI that should have just leaned in and been real bad, and instead we went for a odd combo of practical plus CGI that just didn't work. At no point did it feel fun or funny, or even, like, properly scary.
I'm just looking at it. Two of the writers, Melton and Dunstan, worked on all 3 Feast movies.
Yeah.
Dunstan wrote The Collector and The Collection, which Collection was not as good as The Collector, but still.
Yeah, I mean, Collector was good.
Worked on multiple Saw movies, so these guys have...
They know how to do it, and you can see that. There are bits throughout this whole movie that, like, would have worked if we had played into one of them a little more. Whether that's bad CGI, whether that's the shock factor of the piranha inside a person, or, like, did more of a commentary on, like, swimsuit and pool nudity, and then, like, the whole, like, classic virgin thing.
Yeah.
Like, pick something.
How Melton worked on Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
That movie was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, no, they're, like, everyone who has worked in this movie, they know how to do it. I think this was just a bit of a rush grab. No surprise, this did not do well at the box office.
Oh, you don't say.
It did not. It did not do well ever at all. I think you were the only person to ever buy a copy. It didn't do well in theaters, which is honestly, like...
You're wrong. I bought this used, so someone had to buy it before me.
You. There you go.
So 2 people have bought this movie.
And don't be wrong, I get the whole, like... And especially when this movie came out in 2012, 3D was very gimmicky, and, like, it wasn't terribly expensive, but we filmed this on a 3D rig. There was no need to put in effort in places it didn't belong.
Because it was a tie to Jaws 3D. You know exactly why they did it.
I know exactly why they did it, but they also should have known that this was going to be a, like, home video success and not a film, like a... This is the 4th one! The 3rd one didn't even do good in theaters. The 2nd one didn't do good in theaters. The only Piranha that ever did good in theaters was the 1st one.
And even then, that one's
not. And even then, it didn't do that good. It barely made its money back. Like, they knew too much, and, like, I feel like a lot of it was just a give up sort of attempt.
Sometimes just let cult movies die.
Yes. The 3rd one was enough fun that I would have been happy that it didn't exist. The only reason to ever watch Piranha 3 Double D is to ruthlessly critique it.
Yeah. Well, in regards to that, Chris, rent, buy, stream, or decline that we ever watched it despite having an audio recording of us watching Piranhas 3D.
You're gonna have to deny that you ever watched this. If you stream this and someone walks into the room, it would be easier to explain porn.
It depends on what you're watching.
Piranhas 3 Double D. There's too much, like, unnecessary to be like, is this a fun one? Come watch it. It's really not that bad. Or, like, even like, oh, come watch this stupid movie. It's not fun. It's not stupid.
Oh, no, it's stupid.
It is stupid, but
like, not in a fun way.
Exactly. Like, there's nothing to, like, even make fun of, like, don't be wrong. I have a group of friends. We watch all of the Sharktopus movies and all of the, Tyrannosaurus Rex coming to eat you in your dreams movies. And we find them hilarious because the CGI is bad, the story is bad, the acting is almost non-existent. There's too much effort in the wrong places for this to be fun.
Yeah, and even then, this one leaves it open for a sequel because, the piranhas are starting to walk on land.
And honestly, I don't hate that they did that because it does fit in with the rest of it. Like, it would have been a little weird to have a quote-unquote final ending, especially since the DVD comes with advertisement for the game.
Great.
And while I'm sure that is the most popular Piranhas, I know that the genre continued. I think they even made a shark version at some point.
Shocking.
I know. So, like, I'm not surprised, I'm not upset that they quote-unquote set up for a sequel. I would be okay with a sequel where it's just the guy with the shotgun legs and Hasselhoff running a park. That would be more fun to me.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need Piranhas, the franchise, to die. I just need less effort put into it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a hard decline on this one as well. I get what they were trying to go for, but
Same.
It's one of those movies where they put too many parody elements into it that it just doesn't work. Instead of trying to do something original or interesting, it's relying too heavily on the past to be like, hey, remember that really bad movie that kind of had a cult following? While we're doing that, plus 20 other movies.
Yes, and honestly, there are a few scenes in this that are meant to be shock features for if you are not used to overly nude and sex-related horror films. But because this movie's so bad, they're not worth it. There's other ones that I think would be better beginning if that's what you're trying to, like, dip your toes into.
No, exactly. So, exactly, Charlie. But this has been The Good, the Bad, the Weird Microviews.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the good, the bad, and the weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace!